that's pretty much where I started, was winemaking. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. All righty. Looks like we're live. All right. Hello, CBBP. Sorry if I could pronounce that right. Craft Beers Professionals people. I'm Phil, and this is Spencer, and we're with Aseptic Fruit Purées. Spencer is a guest brewer. He's done a lot of media and a lot of stuff. The backgrounds of brewings, little tricks and tips when it comes to purees and all this different brewing stuff for AFP. And so now he's with us today to discuss puree versus concentrates. So right now we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit more in depth. I guess I'll start with myself. I'm Phil. My background, I used to be a winemaker. I went to school for winemaking enology at Fresno State. I was a winemaker at several facilities, and including over in Sacramento, California, Fresno, California, several locations, Monterey, California, all over in California. Worked at a facility that was making bulk brandy and all these different spirits. And I fermented all different things that who knows, like, you know, things that you didn't even imagine you can ferment, like especially during COVID when you're trying to make the hand alcohol or, you know, the sanitizer. And so, you know, I was going through all sorts of stuff to make that stuff. So, and then I eventually made my way into a brewery in Fresno, and I was brewing beer for a while. And then I got suckered into sales somehow, but I've been loving it because I get to talk to you lovely people and interact and doing, helping out with my experience as well as just seeing the cool stuff people make. So I'll let Spencer introduce himself a little bit. Go ahead, Spence.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, I'm Spence. For those of you that don't know me, I've been around a while. I've been with AFP for a while. I started my career in England. I was out there for about three and a half years. Ended up moving to Georgia. Worked on the packaging line like everybody else does, and moved up and became head brewer out there. Made my way up to Ohio. Worked in Columbus for quite a few years as a lead brewer, and then made myself a production manager in Dayton, Ohio. For the last few years, and then just recently just left that job. I'm currently doing some military stuff right now, but I will be back to brewing. Don't worry. Hopefully in the DC area. So short little plug for myself is anybody need a superstar like myself in DC? Just give me a ring. But today we're not here to talk about me. We're definitely here to talk about fruit. So
that's great. And I want to thank Craft Beers Professionals for having us, and appreciate being out here to be able to talk about it. All right, well, let's get started. Okay, first slide. Here we go. What is puree and what is concentrate? Well, there's several different things. I'm going based with a concentrate that it's pretty common in the industry, but I'm not going to mention any names during this just because it's about aseptic fruit purees. at the heart of it all, technically. But I just wanted to show the comparison because this is a question that using puree or concentrate, a lot of us brewers think about, and when we're trying to make the next recipe and try to look at costs as well as what the end goal is. So I'm hoping that this whole conversation that Spencer and I are going to discuss, and if you want to chime in on any comments and questions during this, I'll try to pay attention to those and answer. But that is a question that we both, Spencer and I, had to go do our research and figure out what's the best way to go about making the next recipe. So we're hoping this conversation will clear a lot of people's questions up when it comes to, should I go with concentrate or should I go with puree? So first of all, puree, if you haven't worked with it before, it is basically just the fruit blended up or ground up into, pureed per se, into a combination of pulp and the juice. And then our aseptic puree means that it is the microbes were basically pasteurized off. So all the microbes are gone. So it made it shelf stable in our bags. So then you could actually store it at room temperature for up to 18 months. But once you open it, you have to make sure that you refrigerate it or freeze it, because it is no longer aseptic. You just exposed all the elements outside. When it comes to concentrates, concentrates are extra pasteurized in a way. They're actually evaporated. All the water was evaporated out to make this concentrated flavor. And when it comes to flavor of that fruit puree, it starts out, but then they also remove the solids. So you're basically concentrating more of the juice factor by the time it's all said and done. So going over our purees compared to a concentrate that I've taken from a source that's pretty common in the beer industry. So if I go over the ingredients, our ingredients in our puree is basically just fruit and ascorbic acid. We add a little bit of ascorbic acid. It's about 0.02%, aka 200 parts per million, ascorbic acid to help with oxidation during the aseptic process. So the aseptic process, it goes through a heat exchange where it rapidly heats up the puree to be able to kill all the microbes, and then it goes through a heat exchange again to rapidly cool down. So when it heats up, it does have an effect on the color and air exposure and the whole, when it was basically being ground up and putting through the tube. So we actually add ascorbic acid to help keep color retention and keep it as fresh as possible. And if ascorbic acid is the same thing as vitamin C. Now, when it comes to concentrates, they basically they take the fruit, they go through. I used to work in the concentrate business, so this is kind of like what I'm grabbing from what happens with the concentrates, grabbing from that at one point. So it's not exactly representing the company that I kind of got some of this information from. So it could be a little bit different, but from general concentrates, from what I know, basically they process the juice and then they basically put it in a evaporating pan. So they evaporate as much of the water to a certain point, and then they try to keep that color retention. So they have some things that they need to adjust the color with. They only want to cook it for so long and have all these variables. So when you go over the ingredients in this concentrate that I found, looks like the top ingredient is cane sugar, then dextrose, fructose, fruit, natural flavoring, and plant extract. So when you evaporate and concentrate a juice, you do lose some of the aromas and all that stuff. So I think they want to, when they want to reach a certain sugar level, they will, in this case, look like they added some cane sugar, dextrose, and fructose to it to achieve that sugar level, that sweetness, without actually losing too much of the fruit. Because if you evaporate a fruit too long, you cook the fruit too long, you start losing the fruit characters. So that's why they reduced it. So they are able to try to keep the retention of the fruit a little bit better. And then you see they have a natural flavoring. Sometimes they take the evaporation or the distillate, all the vapors that came off the juice, and they will actually take the aromas and put it back into the product. That way, you're able to kind of retain that. If you ever look at those low-calorie sodas that basically has like no sugar, no fruit added, but it has the essence of it. Well, that's where you get the essence of your sparkling sodas with just water, but it has the essence of whatever fruit character. That's how you get that. So they sometimes could add that back, natural flavoring. And then plant extract. Plant extract, it varies on what that could be. I think it could be to help with color. They might actually add a natural plant dye. It's not really dye. I hate using the word dye, but they just like they do. Like they put plant extract, and so you can get like a red color from beets, and they concentrate the pigment from the beet, and they're able to use it in other food products. And it's not considered like one of those synthetic dyes. So that's basically the gist of what I have there. And concentrates, typically, I talk in bricks. I'm not sure what the specific gravity is, but concentrates are generally around 65, 70 bricks, which is pretty high. I like talking in bricks because I was a winemaker, first of all. And also you could easily like take the bricks divided by 2, and that's your estimate ABV, right? So anyway, so concentrates are generally around like 65, 70 bricks. Purées, it's whatever the fruit bricks naturally is. So like mangoes could be like 20, 21, strawberries around like 7 bricks, like, low sugar. So anyway, in comparison of those two, that's kind of the gist of what concentrates versus purées are. You have any comments on that, Spence?
The thing that stands out to me just right away is like fruit is like the fourth ingredient of the concentrates. So I guess I knew that. I guess I knew it was mostly sugar. I just seeing it is kind of crazy to see that it's like not mostly fruit.
Yeah.
And then as far as I was gonna say, and then as far as bricks go, it's pretty similar to Play-Doh. I know there's a conversion, but like it's like decimal places off. So for those of you that are using Play-Doh, if he's using bricks, it's fractions off. So like a 70 brick thing is like a 75-ish Play-Doh concentrate.
Right. Specific gravity. I don't remember what the conversion is on that, but basically bricks is like, I believe it's 1 gram per 1,000 grams of liquid. So 1 gram sucrose for 1,000 grams liquid or something like that. So anyway, that's what degree bricks are. But anyway, that's. They add a little sugar. I mean, some concentrates, they don't add sugar. It's whatever sugar is left in the fruit. I mean, and it varies. But if you think about it, it goes in order of by weight. So, so cane sugar weighs a lot. So that's probably why it's up on top. But anyway, that's how that works. All right. So I want to go a little bit into production. This is where Spence can share his experience as well as I'll share mine. I mean, when it comes to production and how easy and convenient concentrate is, it's pretty obvious. Just pour it in and it kind of just melds into the beer and kind of incorporates with it, where puree is a little bit more complicated, having to work around the solids. Sometimes you might need to add an enzyme to help break down the pectins. And then try to pump or pour it in depending on how much you're adding. and then having to settle those solids too, all throughout that process. So anyway, like, and generally speaking, when you're adding purees, depending on your batch, like, you could um, bump it in or pour it in, and then dealing with the solids too, that kind of can vary on your type of pump that you use in your brewery. Believe it or not, I've actually pumped with a centrifugal pump the puree out of a drum, and that was, it didn't, and it, had to charge the pump in a way. So I had to backflow the beer into the pump until I reached the drum.
Yeah.
And then I was able to reverse the flow and then finally pull the puree into the.
That's definitely a scary process, because that's how I've always done it too with the drums. And, those drums are full, right? They're already, you have about an inch of room at the top. And when you have to prime that pump, you have to backflow that beer in. And turn that pump on and hope it starts pumping before it starts overflowing. Definitely, we used to use 2 people just to make sure it was a little bit safer, but I've definitely done it by myself, and it's scary,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's a 2-man job kind of thing, and then if your pump is kind of, I had a pump where the control panel was a bit sketchy, and only my variable speed didn't work anymore. It was just like, it's been through some abuse, but like having to, and then if you're over there staged away from the tank and having to work valves and like go one way to the other way and have like having to run, I've had to do that a couple times. Like, and sometimes I had to do it by myself. Like, just depends on how your brewery set up, but it's been interesting. And then having to pour it in, those are 44-pound bags, which I've had to do, when they didn't have drums and I had to add it to a 60-barrel brew. That was a lot of bags I had to open and go on top of the tank and pour, and just like, oh man, it's a lot of work. But
I've definitely done that before too. And where like maybe I'm on a scissor lift, and the scissor lift can't hold that much weight, so you have to do like multiple trips up. And well, now AFP has the easy open the easy open bags. But before, the bags were so hard to open, and we would just knife them open. But then your pour isn't, even, and you're just getting puree all over the top of the tank. And, you're struggling, especially, if you have somebody up there that's not super strong and they're shaking up there, like trying to hold 44 pounds high enough to get into a 2-inch port, like it can definitely be a mess to have to try to do 20 boxes, 30 boxes of puree.
Yeah. The nice thing about the bags is that they're easier to grip. But if you're adding concentrate and pouring it in and you're using the 60-pound buckets, now that was where I struggled. I had to add about 5 buckets to 60 barrels or something, or quite a few of those. And then they're buckets, right? They're not the bags. So they want to suck air into it and go glut, 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 like try to pour it in there. So at one point I just got sick of it and just stabbed the top with the knife just so it could pull some air so I could actually because it would take forever, and I'm trying to hold it in an awkward position from the scissor lift and over into the top. And so I'm just like, man, that was way worse than having to do a bunch of bags of puree, in my opinion. But I was like, man, at that point I should have just got a little one of those kegs you transfer in, one of those
like
those kegs. Yeah. The one
well, we used to use yeast brinks for something.
The brinks,
exactly.
So I was like, I should have just used that
big opening. Yeah. No, well, you say that, and I'm now thinking the same thing of, oh yeah, that would have been easier to pump anything in, and we're just sitting there on a scissor lift. All right, I'll keep that in my back pocket.
Well, the bummer thing is sometimes breweries only have one pump and somebody else,
Mhm.
or like,
Right.
might be doing another operation. And so you're kind of
Yeah.
limited in what you're doing. And you're like, well, I'm
Right.
going to add hops anyway while I'm up there. So once you have the tank open, you might as well just go get it all done, right?
Right.
Dry hopping it, but it just depends on when you're adding it. It's all about the process there. But yeah,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
uh it's one of those things where, you find your different ways of doing it and whatever works for your brewery. But we have a connection with Flux Pump. These guys are really cool. So we have a little partnership. They're these guys are actually in Georgia as well. That's how we're connected. The main hub there, but they have these cool cavity displacement pump that basically can go directly in the barrel all the way to the bottom.
Oh,
Has a little breather thing. So, and then you just hook it up with the hose. That top motor actually detaches, so everything is like you can clean it out and use that motor for different attachments. And it's
yeah.
pretty cool. They have all sorts of cool stuff. So we're actually partnered up with them for anybody looking for a pump that basically makes life a lot easier. For anything that they're trying to transfer, that thing will pump anything. It could even pump like thick stuff. Like they told me, like, well, we haven't, other than solids, we haven't seen anything I couldn't pump, right? So some pretty sludgy stuff.
Huh. Yeah,
So I don't know if you ever used one of those
that's good to
pumps.
know. I haven't. I haven't. I'll have to take a look at them.
Yeah. So
Uh,
the cavity displacement is actually at the bottom of the drum. So it doesn't need priming or anything. It just starts sucking right there. And then so it has this shaft that goes all the way down the center and starts pumping from the bottom of the drum, and basically, just will bring it wherever you need to go. So yeah, it's so
yeah.
you can go across, and then all the controls is right there by the drum. So it makes life easier, that's for sure. So that's why we have that
Yeah.
option there. So if you are interested in pumps for any of you guys watching this, hit me up or hit up AFP, and we can discuss the equipment that you need to help make your life easier. Let's see. All right, we're doing pretty good on time. Well, now
Yeah.
here's the big discussion of flavor. This is what the biggest deciding factor of puree versus concentrate really is. I mean, this is what makes it worth the labor of love of putting that puree in, because the flavor is the biggest thing that makes it worthwhile. How about we'll go with Spence's interpretation of flavors between concentrates and
Yeah.
because
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think there's a time and a place for both, and I think a lot of times using both can help a flavor, or bring out a full, more rounded flavor if you use both. That said, I do prefer a puree. Any day of the week, I could use just a puree and be perfectly happy, but I don't know if I would use just a concentrate and be perfectly happy. I think there's something missing in a concentrate that you get with a puree. I know we talked about that there's 20% solids, and I think those solids can definitely make a difference in the flavor. I don't know what it is. I uh, I say it's just the vegetative matter, and I don't want to say it's a vegetative taste, but I've always equated it to the difference between using hops versus hop extract, right? Like there's definitely a flavor you get with hops that's missing in a hop extract. If you made a beer 100% hop extract, you'd know something was off. You may not be able to pinpoint it, but you would know something is off. Um, so I think those solids make a difference in the flavor, and maybe it could just be the processing too, where a concentrate is way more processed, and so maybe you're getting a more of a don't want to say fake, but a fake flavor in a concentrate. Again, not to say that's a bad thing. I think it can definitely round it out. I know you and I have discussed it before with certain flavors where a concentrate may be necessary. Peach is definitely a good one in my book, where I think peach by itself is a very delicate flavor. So once it's fermented, there's something missing, and if you add that concentrate, it could kind of round that out and bring out more of that peach flavor in the puree. But at the same time, if you just use peach concentrate, it's going to taste like the peach ring candy or can taste, I should say. I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch of brands of concentrates out there that all taste different, but in my experience, at least.
Yeah, like I definitely agree completely with that. Like, you know, there is advantages of using concentrates and there's advantages of using purees, and flavor is basically what really makes your beer, right? That's the whole goal, is to try to pinpoint a certain flavor that it's great. Like, you know, so in my comparisons, concentrate definitely gives you more of that candy flavor. It's like, you know, sweeter. You know, it has like a little bit, you know, more of that pie, you know, cooked, baked, you know, flavor to it, which isn't always a bad thing. But, you know, but if you're looking for more of a fresh fruit, you got to go the puree route. And what the major thing is that, you know, when with the concentrate, it's so sweet and it's been, you know, you actually lose the acidity. Like you lose the like that fresh fruit acidic character.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you're looking for a sweet, then concentrate is that way. But if you want some of that complexity of the fruit, where you have the acidity, you have a little bit more of that bitterness from the rind, stuff like that, or pulp, and even with the fruit character, it actually helps with mouthfeel with the purees. It helps with head retention compared to concentrates, because there is that pulpiness to it, that helps keep it there. And so, like, yeah, when it comes to flavors, like you said, some of the purees, some of the fruits are naturally a little bit softer in flavor. Like guava could be a little bit softer in flavor at times, or peach and all that stuff, where you might want to add a little concentrate to it, so then you can have a little bit more presence of that flavor. Or strawberry is actually another one too. That one I've done a little bit of both. Where strawberry, like, you think the puree is going to be nice, packed full of flavor, but it's not as much as you think. And then so you supplement it a little bit with a concentrate to help bring that strawberry character, but you still have that acidity and natural strawberry character as well, than just going like pure concentrate or pure puree. So but yeah, having a little bit of both, or just one or the other. Now, there's flavors that I definitely would go all puree. Like if I wanted to put banana in there, I'm not going to, I don't know about you, but I would not go with a concentrate banana character. I hate banana candy.
No.
Like, just because it just tastes so bleh, and
Right.
it's one of those things. Yeah. Or lemon. 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 I want that acid in there, where concentrate lemon is sugary.
I'm glad you brought up acidity, because when you think about the fruits that are better in just puree form, they tend to be more acidic. So like all of your citrus fruits, so your lemon, your lime, your orange, blood orange, things like that, like those, I feel like, I don't know if I've ever used a concentrate of those flavors. I feel like I've only used puree, but that's probably because of the acidity. Like if you don't have the acidity of the lemon or the lime or the orange, it's going to taste very artificial. Whereas, you know, your more delicate flavors aren't as acidic. And so maybe that's where that concentrate matters.
Yeah.
And then on the banana, I agree with you too. I I don't know if I've used banana concentrate, but like it just would remind me of like banana Laffy Taffy or banana runts, where I feel like that's what it would taste like. I could be wrong. I haven't used the concentrate, but like I think you're right. Where um, I've consistently ordered banana from AFP because we had a banana Hefeweizen and we would just use a ton of banana in that thing. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I mean, those are basically the major flavor differences. And so when it comes to try to add those characters, yeah, it's one or the other, but or both, So it's just
Right.
yeah. So let's move on to some flavor trends. See how the United States is what flavors are going. So up here I have some flavor trends from for the United States from last year and the beginning of this year. And so and I have Canada up to, or that's going to be on the next slide, but looks like the top seller last year was strawberry, pink guava, and mango. And now pineapple has risen up the beginning of this year so far. So that's pretty interesting
Yeah.
within itself. And then, yeah, blackberry has kind of knocked itself down. Maybe that's maybe because we're not in that season yet or something that blackberry people are getting into. But, it's still
That's
early to tell.
when I saw these lists, they definitely surprised me, especially last year's list. To have strawberry on top, and I do like. I can enjoy a strawberry wheat or a strawberry lager or something like that, but to have that as the top selling fruit it seems wild to me, but it could just be the region that I'm in is not a big strawberry heavy area, or that because I don't use it, it surprises me. But that was the one that surprised me. Guava and mango and pineapple, I definitely agree with from my experience. I think mango for me, I can see everybody using it. I think it's I think it complements a lot of the newer hops. Like all the hops that come out now are mango, guava, tropical fruit type of thing. So I can see that, but it was definitely the strawberry that surprised me.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. You're on the East Coast, right? Well, I don't have it up here, but I have the East versus the West. And actually, the East Coast was the one that was the top seller was strawberry on the East Coast. West Coast was pink guava.
Really? Okay.
So it's everybody on the East Coast, but I like but AFP, aseptic fruit purees, isn't just the beer industry too. Like we're actually getting quite a bit in the food industry as well. Like ice cream and a lot of different like bakeries and even the cannabis industry. A lot of them are using our fruit purees for flavoring, and it was cool. I was even talking to one of the customers, and he's making like cigar wraps out of purees. Like he has like some sort of patent like drying ability with the puree and practically making like one of those fruit leathers, but smokable like as a cigar.
Wow.
So he's like, oh, okay,
that's
well,
crazy.
Interesting. So yeah, like so it's that industry is getting quite creative, and there's like a lot of the beverages and all that stuff that are using it as well. So I guess like, well, technically this is what our sale reflection is, but it's not just brewing. And it's also like, we sell to wineries, meaderies, cideries,
right.
Anything that uses our puree. Puree is natural, even though we do most of our marketing towards the beer industry.
Right. And I guess that makes sense. It makes a little more sense in my brain that like some of these would be better, or not better suited, but they would be more popular in other industries than not necessarily ours. or
Yeah.
mine. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's how things are going. So I think pineapple has been moving quite quickly this year. So it looks like that's one of the things going on. And as people are starting to experiment more with the non-alcoholic options, because
Mhm.
that's how the trend's going, as everybody knows, we've been getting a lot more sales in that regard too. It's not as much fruit beers as it is like just non-alcoholic beverages. Our ginger is practically sold out. Like we might just have a few boxes left, and we're waiting on another order of that. But yeah, that's another thing. So here's Canada. Canada last year, raspberry number one, and
Yeah.
it looks like raspberry starting this year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like they're moving forward, and then pink guava and mango passion fruit is going up there this year too, starting out, and yeah, and then of course pineapple was last year, but pineapple's been moved down quite a bit. So
Yeah, it's interesting to see just across the border how much of a difference that makes. This list actually makes a little more sense to me from a brewing standpoint than the other list. Um, but at the beginning of this year, I mean, you see strawberry still in the top 5,
mhm.
but raspberry, guava, passion fruit, like, yeah, uh, those are definitely like the main fruits I would expect.
And I see blood orange. I'm surprised I don't see blood orange higher. I feel like everybody loves blood orange, but
Right.
yeah, but I guess it's just the volume that they need to actually do anything. Like, they might not need to dose as much blood orange as they need to with the other flavors. So,
For sure.
but anyway, yeah. So what I like to touch base on now is our personal predictabilities of flavor trends this year and product trends. Um, so what I've researched and noticed was some of the flavor trends that people are starting to do a little bit more floral, like hibiscus or lavender in their beers this year in the beverages, and then heading towards the non-alcoholic options. People are making their own sodas, so just um, taking puree or concentrate and adding sugar and water and carbonating it and putting it on tap as a non-alcoholic option. Or lemonades, they'll take lemon puree and sugar and water and put it on tap. I'd mix with whatever berry character, maybe make a pink lemonade or stuff like that. Ginger beer, mocktail stuff, yeah, those kind of things too. So I mean, there's been several things where people just try to go that route to help keep with what's popular, um, and of course seltzers too. But I've also, and the trends too that I researched and I've actually seen a little bit, is people are going the nostalgic flavor route. So like think of all the stuff you used to have when you were a kid. Like for instance, I saw an example of somebody was trying to mess with, like, do something around the flavor of, have you ever had those mud cups as a kid where you have like the chocolate
Oh yeah.
pudding and then you put the gummy worms in there and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Okay.
so they're like bringing ideas back like that, or like remember the Sobe drinks where with the
Oh
carrot
yeah.
and orange.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, stuff like that, and bringing back these old flavors, cactus cooler, maybe bring it back.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so like Fruitopia, fruit punch, stuff like that. So that's, everybody's kind of going the nostalgic route when it comes to these flavors and bringing them back. I even did a beer that was kind of towards that sherbet push pops.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day. Yeah, that was pretty cool, where it was like a blend of pineapple, raspberry, and I think it was orange. Yeah,
Okay.
and a
Okay.
beer, and it turned out pretty good. It was a sour, so it made it sherbety.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty good. It actually turned out really nice. But what have you seen and heard?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned ginger, and I do think ginger is a big one for sure, especially with you can make your ginger beer. On the alcohol side, you have RTDs, so you would have ginger in a mule, or even in the beer, like a mule beer type, mule inspired beer. Um, if we're going the non-alcoholic side, like your citrus fruits, I think do well. Your lemon, your lime, your orange. I think those are the good like soda flavors. Um, Even like the kombucha side, like I like personally I like the citrus flavors, but so I definitely see that. Um, it's funny that you mentioned the carrot sobe, because I've used carrot before. I I wish a puree had existed when I did it. We had it was a collaboration beer, and so we just had wild ideas. It was carrot ginger, and we didn't use ginger puree either. So it's a lot of processing of food, but we probably had a couple 100 pounds of carrots that we had to cook, boil, and then puree with like a hand blender, and it took all day because it was just the kitchen of the brewery, and they only have pots so big you can only fit like 30 carrots in a pot, and there was probably a couple few hundred carrots, and just boiling them till they're soft enough to puree, and then it took up the entire cone of the fermenter. So the entire cone was just carrot puree, and it was such a mess. And like we had carrot chunks that maybe didn't get blended all the way, get stuck in the butterfly valves and everything like that. So a carrot puree, although I would probably use carrot again, I wouldn't if I had to hand process that.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
Spence, you're in luck. We have carrot puree in our inventory and
yeah,
aseptic fruit puree, so we do have
yeah,
that
I'm
option now.
I'm 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 taking note of that because
Yeah,
I may need to retry that beer with an easier method.
maybe
Uh,
do that Sobe carrot orange drink or
right,
something
right,
like
right. Uh,
that.
and ginger, there's different ways I know people process ginger, but the way I've always done it is you have to peel the ginger and then slice it and put it in your beer. Um, and ginger's such an awkward shape, so you
You
know,
almost got to put it through a
you,
cheese grater.
yeah, yeah, it's such an awkward shape to peel it, and depending
Yeah.
on your size, like if you're a few barrels, it's probably okay. But I was at a brewery, we had 120 barrel fermenters, and it was, I don't know, a box, so probably 40, 50 pounds of ginger that you're peeling and then cutting up. And so a box puree definitely would have worked. But that's just my experience working with stuff I never probably want to work with again, and a puree would help. But as far as flavors go, like I do think like with the non-alcoholic sector kind of on the rise, and the RTD section and seltzer section kind of doing its thing, like you're uh, I would see more of a rise of your lemon, your lime, your citrus fruits. Uh,
Yeah.
would be my guess. That would be
Yeah,
my
exactly. Yeah, that is true. And I've even seen breweries starting to make more kombucha and do those options as well,
yeah.
and making different flavors that way. So like I think somebody put a little passion fruit and some kombucha, and they asked if we had um, any hibiscus or any flower extracts, and we currently
Yeah.
don't. But we're actually we're progressing forward in a way that we're hoping by 2025 that we're going to have some concentrates available at Aseptic Fruit Purées. So
Very nice.
we're actually waiting on equipment for that, and then try to dial things in and dial some recipes in. And that's what we're progressing forward, is concentrates,
Yeah.
to have that as another option, especially how things are going. So with the, cost of shipping and all that stuff. Well,
Yeah, for sure. And just having a company that has both, to be honest. Just thinking from my production manager side, like when you have to order ingredients from 1,000 different places, it makes it hard.
mhm.
But it's good that y'all are getting into the concentrate business, because like we talked about earlier, like there are certain flavors that you need both. So to be able to, and if it's coming from the same fruit, then the flavors should match relatively well too. I would think so.
Yeah. So when it comes down to what it comes down to when you're really trying to teeter between one or the other is the cost. And I'm not going to go into the details of exact prices, but I'm going to try to talk through how to kind of really calculate what your cost will actually be, comparing the concentrate versus puree. So here I have costs. Like, I'm going to use the example of pineapple, since it was kind of one of those top seller ones, and calculating that, because I was using both dosage rates for our pineapple puree versus the concentrate. And this is kind of what I got here. So for us, we recommend a range of 0.5 to 1.5 pounds per gallon. And of course, it goes on what your goal is, what your flavor preference is, and how strong a pineapple you want. For the concentrates, it's like I have an extra decimal there. It's 0.044 to 0.088 pounds per gallon. I converted, they had it in ounces and per 10 gallons or something like that, or at a percentage dosage rate. So I put it in the same unit in comparison of how much you're actually adding pound per gallon of beer. So I did the mid-range, just to gonna put some calculations in perspective there. So 1 pound per gallon mid-range is like 0.069 pounds per gallon for concentrates. Puree can have about 10 to 20% solids, just depends on the fruit. Like, so if you have a mango puree, that's going to be about 20% solids. If you have citrus, that actually has much less solids to worry about. It's more juice than solids in those purees. So that's a variable within itself. And then concentrate pretty much has no solids to worry about. But at this dosage rate, the percent volume that you actually are going to gain from the product from puree is going to add about 10% more volume to your batch compared to concentrate. It's only going to be 0.5% more volume. So, and that 10% is actually included with, like, after the solids have been removed, like it has settled. So that's like, it's going to be 10% more in your product. So when you're calculating, you want to, your cost, you want to kind of take that into consideration, and that's that much more product that you're going to gain from it compared, so then you actually start to see some of that investment returned in that percentage. So you can expect a 10% increase in your yield when it comes to that. And then, so in that regard, so say if you're doing a 10 barrel batch, you'll have to, this is what you expect out of each one. You would need to get 6 to 7 boxes of pineapple at that dosage rate, or 2 10-pound boxes or tubs of the concentrate. So you'd be typically shipping 308 pounds of puree versus 20 pounds of puree. And depending on how close you are to where the warehouse is that they're stored at, and that could be a hefty bill or not so hefty at all. But when it comes to cost, there are like items that, it would be maybe more expensive to do puree, or more expensive to do concentrate, or they're roughly the same. It just depends on the product. So when it comes to actually cost, like, it's most times, like, concentrate is a little bit cheaper just because you don't have to pay as much shipping. But and your dosage rate's a little smaller, but when you're crunching your numbers, you got to take these into consideration, because concentrate's not going to always be the cheap option. Purees not going to always be the cheap option either. Sometimes it's a give and take. So, but when it comes down to it, what are you going to decide? Like, are you going to spend that little extra money to reach the flavor character that you need? Most likely, yes. Brewers are in it for passion. They're in it for what the flavor truly means. If that means they have to spend a little bit more for one or the other to achieve that, to make that signature art, it's an art, it's a flavor that you're going for. So yeah, when it comes to the cost, breweries will not sacrifice on flavor when it comes to that, right? So I don't know.
Right.
What are your thoughts, Spencer?
Yeah, through my experience, I definitely agree. Like there's beers where your puree is going to cost more, and there's beers where your concentrate is going to cost more. I've really found that, like, if you take all your beers that use some type of fruit, whether it be puree or concentrate, and you kind of do the math throughout the year, it really doesn't make too big of a difference. I've done some cost analysis for beer, had to, do my cost analysis to give to either ownership or accounting or shareholders or whoever works at the brewery that looks at those numbers. And when I do that, sometimes you go, oh, I got to cut a little bit of cost here, or I got to cut a little bit of cost there. But I've found fruit isn't normally the biggest factor in that, especially when you talk about that 10% more, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that means, like, if you look at shipping, yeah, I paid whatever, $200 in shipping. Well, if you got an extra keg out of it, there's your $200 right there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you get more than that, if you're getting multiple kegs out of it, then you're definitely making your money back somewhere in that. So I think in that sense, like, when you look at it, like, they even out. It just depends on the flavor that you're going for and what you're trying to achieve in the beer. If you're trying to achieve that kind of more natural flavor and aesthetic of the beer, then yeah, the purees make sense. And if you're just going for pure ease and maybe just hinting at some things, hinting at some flavors, rounding out some flavors, then and your concentrates make more sense. So, um, I don't think cost should be your deciding point. I think definitely, like you said, like, brewers are in this for the flavor of the beer. So it depends on just what you're trying to achieve, and definitely just use what is best for you, and not necessarily what is best for the checkbook there. Because I can tell you, through the 10 years I've been doing this, like, it doesn't matter cost wise. Cost wise, you're gonna break even either way.
If it's a good beer, like, of course you're going to put the appropriate price on your beverage. You got to beat your cost. You got to make your dime as well. But usually most customers are willing to pay for that higher quality. And so when you're making these beers, you're not exactly making it out of gold. But if you're looking to make a cheap beer, maybe not add fruit to it is probably the best way to go if you're going to be that cost
Yeah,
conscious in a way. But
yeah,
but people, like, they're doing all sorts of things, and beer can be a blank canvas. You can make it basic, or you make it crazy, awesome flavor and complexity and all that stuff. Adding, blending, doing all this different ingredient stuff. It's what makes it fun. So,
Yeah.
and so we're trying to dabble in different ingredients as well, and having different options available. Yes, aseptic fruit purees does have aseptic vegetable purees as well, that we could also source. We actually have items that we can source that is not actually on our website. So for anybody that's wanting to try a certain flavor, shoot an email to your aseptic fruit rep, whether it's me or Nick or Manny or Alex. See if we can get that for you, because we actually manufacture our purees, come out of Colombia and Mexico, and so we actually bring a certain amount of inventory in the United States to keep stored for our customers here in the United States and as well as Canada, and they're basically items based on what our customers need and what the demand is. But that doesn't mean our manufacturer doesn't have other stuff that we can't get for you. So we just have to special order it and do all that stuff. But hey, we could source it. So, and if it seems to be a trending item, then we might bring it in to keep it here and store it here. So then you have a better turnaround when it comes to your orders, and no minimum order quantity. So that was the nice thing about us keeping the stuff here, is that there's no minimum order quantity. But yeah, when it comes to concluding about purees versus concentrates, I shrug and say it's really up to the brewer. Just like you're saying, like you could use a combo, you could use one or the other. I think purees is better base wise, where concentrates just might be a little bit more supplemental. You don't want it to be the overpowering main flavor. Purees, you can have it a little bit more impactful in your beer, because it does taste like a fruit juice, so rather than a syrup, so just, but the concentrates can help boost that flavor a little bit more, to get more of that presence in there. So, but anyway, I don't really see any questions in the comments, but if you're looking to order any fruit purees, this is how you can contact us. Go to our website, asepticfruitpurees.com. You can email info@asepticfruitpurees. That way, you could send your questions and all that stuff, and then basically one of the reps will respond to you, depending on your area. And then of course you can call the number. And if you're going to CBC, we'll be at booth 747. So, but anyway, yeah, is there anything else you want to comment on, or?
No. I just, I just want to say, like, again, just talk about what you were saying. If you need anything, contact Aseptic Fruit Purees. I try not to annoy them too much, but if I need anything, they can get it for me. And I know they're not treating me special. It may seem like it, but I know they're not treating me special. They treat everybody like they treat me, like a king. So just contact them. They'll treat you right. They'll make sure you get what you need. And if they can't, they will figure it out. They will get you. They will make sure they get you what you need. So.
Perfect. Yeah. And, technically I'm the West Coast guy. I'm the West Coast rep, but usually all the technical questions go my way. So if you even have any brewing like problems to solve, I did brush lightly on the pectin idea. And so if you had issues with clarity in your beer, or even just, some problems that arise that are kind of funky that you never seen before, like why is my biofine not clearing out my beer? Why did all my flavors seem to settle to the bottom? Kind of thing. I've had that happen before. And so stuff like that, I could have a bunch of knowledge that I've worked with fruit quite a while now, and knowing how to solve problems because I've seen quite a bit of them. And so, anytime that you need help with anything, anybody that's watching this, like, yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help out with any issues and try to help solve that problem for you, and with tips and tricks and whatever. And I could tap into. I got a bunch of beer friends that could also help out. We're willing to do that for free. We don't charge for consulting.
And I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure your website also has like there's a frequently asked question, but I think there's like an educational. There's a blog that talks about a bunch of stuff, and then there's some educational stuff that may or may not have yours truly talking about